Hello there viewers and welcome into episode 12 of the Mercedes-Benz F1 Manager 22 save career mode on the PS5. I hope you're doing really well. We're going to head towards Hungary. The Hungarian Grand Prix is next up on our list. And we're going to be starting here with a chassis design. So I hope you are enjoying the series so far. Smash a like on the video if you are enjoying the content. And consider subscribing to the channel for more regular F1 Manager content as well. Let me know in the comments down below just how your career mode's going. Or if you're already at the top of the charts in terms of drivers and constructor standings. Be sure to check out the last video from France if you haven't checked it out already. Because spoiler alerts, we were top of the charts ourselves at Mercedes. So let's continue on then. The chassis has been designed, so we will take a look at that in a minute. Just to give you a quick summary, quick roundup, Mercedes currently sitting in third place in the Constructors' Championship, but we are only 4 points now behind Red Bull, the closest we have been all season long for second place. Ferrari still currently 62 points, I think that is, 66 points ahead of us in the Constructors. So a little way to go if we want to become the 9 times Constructors champions in a row, but we will be working towards it as much as we can. Drivers wise, Lewis Hamilton is again as close as he has ever been to the top of the drivers standings, currently only 11 points off Max Verstappen, who had a poor race last time out. Then things first, before we go into our emails, George Russell has another development point and he can go up one. Hopefully we're getting him close to 87 rated overall. What do we want to do with it? So he struggled with overtaking last time. He wasn't able to get past Charles Leclerc quickly. He wasn't really able to challenge Lewis Hamilton either. So I think we're going to put that on overtaking just so that he can get a boost. If we can get that towards 90, George Russell will be an all-around threat here. Defensive-wise, we do have to watch out, but we've got a good car. So now he doesn't really seem to be defending as much. At the start of the season, he was defending from Valtteri Bottas every single race. Right then, the chassis has been complete. So let's manufacture one now. Again, we want to go with 4. We always kind of want to go with 4. And we're going to rush it as well so that we can try and get it before, well, the Hungarian Grand Prix. Hungary is only in 4 days, so we're not going to be able to do it anyway. So what we are going to do is, do we emergency it? No, we don't need to emergency it. And I don't really want to rush it either. I need to start thinking about saving some money. To stay under the cost cap. So we're gonna do 4 of them. We'll confirm them just regular. I also realized that in the last time out, we got in the last episode, we got an email about the suspension, that we need to create more suspensions because we only had 1 in the warehouse. So I accidentally done that on the side pods. I've now got way too many side pods. So suspension, we are going to manufacture another 2 just in case. It's at 100k. We'll do it at normal. We don't need them. They're not really damaged or worn or anything. This is your usual reminder that the board review is in 7 days. Interesting. This may change before the formal review. Right now it's high confidence, but it'll be interesting if ever we were in sort of the low confidence side of things, if we were to get fired. Right now everything is okay. Let's fast forward then on to the race, and the manufacturing has been completed for the rear wing, so that is good. I think we're okay in terms of rear wing. So we're going to car setup. Yeah, all of the rear wings have been installed on both cars. We've just got spares now in case there are any damages, and the rear wings do seem to have worked quite a bit in France. They definitely helped us build up our speed quite a lot. Back to the inbox again. Oscar Piastri, his scouting has been completed. Right, let's take a look. He's not interested in negotiating with us. Okay, that's interesting, but his patience is high. I wonder why he's not interested in negotiating with us. Why does he not want to drive for Mercedes? High growth potential, decent everywhere else. Maybe he's got a drive lined up already for next year. Who are we considering as replacements if Lewis Hamilton were to retire this year? We've already scouted Esteban Ocon. We've scouted Lando Norris. It's Pierre Gasly's turn now, I think. So we're going with detailed scouting for now. We're going to scout him. So for right now, we're just going to stick with Pierre Gasly. What we're also going to do, though, is we will scout Charles Leclerc, because why not? If him and Ferrari bottle this season's championship, maybe he might be looking for a way out, and race preparation for Hungary. Performance targets: reach Q2 as always, reach Q3 as always, and qualifying position 2 cars in the top 8 to do that, just to be safe. We will start doing top 6 because I think we should be fine for top 6, but I'm still not 100% confident in the speed of this car. So we're trying to get as much money as possible. Fastest lap I'm not confident about, but finish position will stay as both cars in the top 6. Qualifying streak, 1 car in the top 8, and then finish position we're going to go with 2 cars in the top 8 as well. Let's do that. So that is all of our money for the performance targets coming in. Let's fast forward onto Hungary.
The Hungaroring is abuzz with excitement as Formula One returns to Hungary for another round. We first came here in 1986 after construction on this purpose-built motorsport facility was completed. The Hungaroring is one challenging succession of corners and turns. With few straights, it's affectionately known as the go-kart circuit. Drivers will have to find a proper rhythm to make the most of the layout, and for cars, low-speed downforce will be paramount. We're about halfway through the season now, and there's still plenty of time for everything to change. All eyes are on the teams and how they tackle the rest of the year. Stay right here, because we're just getting started.
Here we are then, the setup for Hungary. Lewis Hamilton's best circuit, really, here in Silverstone, 2 of his most successful circuits. So hopefully we can continue the good run of form that both he and the Mercedes team as a whole we've got them currently on. Practice is cloudy for both days, so is qualifying, but Sunday clear skies and a little bit sunny, so that should be okay. It'll be interesting to see how that helps or hinders the tire wear. And we will do some setups as usual, send them out, and any highlights I will bring to you throughout this session. Right, so first lot of feedback has come in for both drivers after about 20 minutes of practice 1, and we've got 4 bads and a good 30% on the driver confidence setup. So we've definitely done something wrong there. The rear wing's going to come down quite a bit. We'll do that. The front wing is going to go up quite a bit, so we're going to do that. The traction might just go that way a little bit, and hopefully we're heading the right direction. Unless, yeah, we'll do that with the traction. Tire camber, we can do something like that, and then the toe out will do something like that. So that should be okay. And then yeah, we'll do the same sort of thing that we've done with Lewis Hamilton. Just looking at it here, 48% though, 48% is better than Lewis Hamilton's one, so at least that's a good start. We've had a big notification of a huge crash as Mick Schumacher locks up and goes straight into the wall. That is a huge crash. Currently yellow flags. I think, is the virtual safety car out potentially, or is another car crashed? This is Mick Schumacher I'm watching. There's another one, the Haas of Kevin Magnussen, at the same time. Is that at the same place as well? They both had like a brake failure or something. Both Haas's crash at the exact same spot in the exact same amount of time. That's crazy. Right then, coming towards the end of practice 1, and Lewis Hamilton has been following George Russell for the vast majority of it. I'm surprised he's not really gone for a move or for an overtake on him, but it's only practice, so not really too concerned there. Feedback wise, we've got feedback, so we're going to bring them both in, but we've been leaving them out on the medium tires just to get that track acclimatization up, and we've got both up to nearly 38%. So let's call George Russell in. Lewis Hamilton's going to come in straight behind him. Only 1 minute left on the time of this session, but I think we're doing pretty well in terms of our setup plan at the minute. George Russell currently in 5th place on the timesheet. Lewis Hamilton currently in 6th. 8/10 of a second off Charles Leclerc. Lewis Hamilton nearly a second off Charles Leclerc, but we've only been using the medium tires so far. So yeah, I think so far so good. We have been on our setup. George Russell in 1st, Lewis Hamilton in 2nd. They've been in formation for the majority of this session, so it's only right that they both come into the pits at the exact same time as well. Beautiful in unison there. Lewis Hamilton, let's take a look at his 69%. A bad, 2 greats, an optimal, and a good. So that's not too bad for a setup ahead of practice 2. We're just going to leave him as that. And then George Russell, he's got an 83%, 3 greats and 2 goods. So we've got something to work off of heading to practice 2.
Cars involved. Let's see what happened there. We're just watching the Red Bull.
Oh no, please don't crash into us. Please don't. He's cut across us. Sergio Perez has cut across us in the Mercedes, and Lewis Hamilton is coming in after this damage, I think. We're going to cancel, or is it George Russell? Did George Russell have the contact? I'm not sure. No, it must have been Lewis Hamilton. He must have had the contact. Lewis Hamilton is in the pits, 95% on the driver confidence setup. So we are nearly there. So we're going to do something like that, and then bring it... not that way. We're going to bring it back that way and do something like that, I think. And George Russell comes in at the end of practice 2, 93%. We've got 3 optimals and 2 greats. So the 2 greats we can mess around with. Trying to keep the optimals here on the braking stability and the oversteer. We could do that on the toe out, really. So yeah, let's try that then with George Russell. We'll put on... Oh, we've got 4 laps there. Right, both drivers are on hard tires, and we've set them up to do 50 laps or something like that. We're going to send them out, try to get the track acclimatization up to 100, and then once we've done that, we will be able to send them back out again for some more runs. So there we go with Lewis Hamilton, 100% driver setup for him. Fantastic stuff. We are going to send him back out on the hard tires, but lower the fuel for 30 laps. Should be fine, and we should be okay with him now until the end of the session. George Russell's only on great, so I don't think he's going to be on 100% just yet. So George Russell's going to come in. Let's check his setup now. 95% for him, and we've lost out on an optimal there now, so we might just give it one more tweak. If not, 95% is going to be the best we can do with George Russell, because we want his track acclimatization up to 100 as well. Is there another accident? Is that another yellow card? Another yellow flag. Sorry, I've got football in my mind, considering most of the fixtures this weekend, or all of the fixtures this weekend in the UK have been cancelled. Alonso, whoa, what a big accident that is. He spun at the weirdest place there. Yeah, some big crashes this weekend at Hungary. George Russell currently in P12. Lewis Hamilton is in the pits. He's on 100% for the driver feedback, as you can see here. Optimals all around. He's on 100% on the track acclimatization. So he's just chilling. He's in the pits just chilling. Whereas George Russell is following the 2 Haas cars around until the end of the session. Currently with P12 and with George Russell, and Lewis Hamilton's in P5. Daniel Ricciardo with a huge incident which causes him to retire. That is the same place that the 2 Haas's both had a crash in practice 1. So yeah, 96%, 2 optimals and 3 greats. I don't think we're going to get much better than that, I'm afraid, at this time, but it's okay. We've got 100% on the track acclimatization. Let's fast forward to the end of the session and jump into qualifying. All right, start of qualifying then. We're going to fast forward on because yeah, I think we should be okay with 1 run. We'll send them out on fresh tires, and hopefully that should be enough. Right, halfway through qualifying 1 then, Lewis Hamilton's currently half a second off Sergio Perez at the top of the time charts, currently in P4. George Russell, he might have a little bit of trouble getting through. He's currently in P10. He was caught up in a little bit of traffic, so I think Lewis Hamilton should be fine. I think that, yeah, we might not send him out, or if we do, it would be pretty late. We're going to stay on the used tyres, I think, but George Russell does definitely need to go out again, because Charles Leclerc is currently in the bottom 5. Kevin Magnussen's in the bottom 5. So is Zhou Guanyu. I don't expect any of them to still stay there. So we might need a bit of a better time. We'll wait until a few more cars go out so that the track grip can be a little bit better. And then hopefully we can improve our time on these used tyres. Here we go then with George Russell coming around the final corner, crosses the line. He goes up to P5, an improvement there. 0.2 of a second off of Charles Leclerc's time, which is great. Lewis Hamilton, he's currently on a personal best time as well, currently in P6, and he should improve considerably, hopefully. He goes up to P3. Good stuff. As Sector 3, there has been an incident. There's been a crash. One of the Alpha Tauris have gone off. At the minute, Alexander Albon is out. Lance Stroll, Latifi is Tsunoda. He locked up and went wide. Zhou Guanyu and Kevin Magnussen are currently in the drop zone. Do they improve? Zhou does. He's out now in P15. And Mick Schumacher is the unlucky Haas. He is out in Q1. Right, so same run plan as usual then. Use tyres for the first set of qualifying runs in Q2 with both of our Mercedes guys. And we'll send them out early to send out a banker lap. And then we'll put on a fresh set if we need to and go out a little bit after. We'll send Lewis Hamilton out straight away. Fast forward things. He's behind Lando Norris. Which should be okay, and George Russell can come out after a decent distance there. So let's fast forward, get the banker lap in, and then we can put on the fresh tyres. Right, currently P3 and P5 in Q2. Kevin Magnussen's finished his run. He's not improved. He could be at risk of being eliminated. Esteban Ocon is at risk of being eliminated if some of the cars behind can go faster. Lewis Hamilton's not had the best middle sector, but he's coming round down the start finish straight now. He's currently a 10th of a second off Sergio Perez. He crosses the line. Doesn't improve, even though he was on the fresh tyres. That's interesting. George Russell, he's on fresh tyres too. He crosses the line, currently P6, stays in P6, but the gap between the top three is all less than 0.4 of a second as Lando Norris, he's eliminated in Q2, as is the McLaren of Daniel Ricciardo. The McLaren's had a poor season so far. Esteban Ocon, he's been knocked out. Does Zhou Guanyu get out? No, he's been eliminated as well, and Yuki Tsunoda also in P11. So 2 Mercedes, 2 Red Bulls, 2 Ferraris, as you'd expect, an Alpine, an Alfa Romeo, an Alfa Tauri, and a Haas all make up the top 10. A nice little mid-table battle there between 4 different teams, which you love to see. Right then, things are looking interesting here after the first runs of Q3. Perez is topping the time charts. He's on provisional P1 at the minute. Lewis Hamilton's in 2nd place at the minute. And we've just left it a little bit late. We should be fine, though. Lewis Hamilton's behind Charles Leclerc, who's currently in P6. So let's see what we can do on the fresh tyres. Last time out was on the used set. Hopefully we can get some performance here. Are we on for our first front row start? Lewis Hamilton currently provisional P2. George Russell currently provisional P5. He's got a little bit of work to do. Right, we are coming towards the end of our time lap now. Lewis Hamilton round the final corner. Sergio Perez has finished his lap. He's currently on pole position. Lewis Hamilton is behind Charles Leclerc unless he can improve his time here. I don't think he's going to have enough to start on the front row, is he? No, Lewis Hamilton's P3. George Russell crosses the line. He's P6. The front 5 all separated by a 10th of a second, less than 0.2 of a second. George Russell by himself in P6. Again, we flattered to deceive in qualifying. And it's a P3 and a P6. We were so close to Lewis Hamilton being on the front row of the grid. But Sergio Perez takes pole. Charles Leclerc in 2nd place. And Lewis Hamilton in P3 on the grid. He's currently ahead of championship rival Max Verstappen, but behind the other championship rival of Charles Leclerc. George Russell, he's going to have to try and catch and pass Sergio Perez if he wants to stay ahead of him in the championship. But that's qualifying done. Let's head on to Sunday.
Race day has arrived and the time has come for these drivers to fight it out wheel to wheel.
We saw a reasonable push from Mercedes in qualifying, and they'll have plenty of opportunities here to achieve a great result. The work Red Bull did during qualifying was nothing short of spectacular. Now let's see if they can repeat that for today's race. And the sun is shining bright here today. This is perfect weather for teams and drivers alike to show us what they're capable of.
And we're just over 300 kilometers away from the conclusion of this Hungarian Grand Prix. And each and every one of them is sure to be thrilling.
Right, here we are then on race day. Clear skies. Looking like it's sunny in Hungary. Right, here we go then. Strategy-wise, Lewis Hamilton in P3, George Russell in P6. So definitely with George Russell, we are going on the aggressive 2-stopper here. The softs onto hards, the hards full attack, and then the mediums full attack at the end. And then again, what we are going, we're not going to delete that. That's the wrong one. We're going to go full attack, again, full attack, again, and full attack, again. And I think we should be fine for strategy B. Let's do that on George Russell and then Lewis Hamilton. Do we split this? The split strategies last time worked very well. So do we split the strategies again? Do we split the strategies again? We could do a soft onto hard with Lewis Hamilton, but the softs are going to fall off very drastically. We could do a medium onto hard, and be pretty aggressive? Or do we just do the same as with Lewis Hamilton? We're going to go one stop with Lewis, actually. Medium onto hard. I think George Russell can be very aggressive on the 2-stop. That worked out really well for him before. And although it worked out well at Silverstone for Lewis Hamilton as well, we're going to split the strategies again, because I think that might be the best time we have, or the best opportunity we have, to do some overtaking with George and with Lewis to be able to keep up with the front two. So let's get to the front of the grid. Lights out time is coming soon.
It's bright and sunny as the drivers line up on the grid. And here we've got Lewis Hamilton. They're up in 3rd position, tantalizingly close to pole. And here we can see Russell. Not as close to the front as they might have wished for, but we know the race order can change a lot during those first few corners. The teams are ready to go. This is it, the Hungarian Grand Prix. It's lights out and away we go.
Right then, George Russell is going straight onto attack on the soft tyres. Lewis Hamilton's going on aggressive. Let's see what we can do. Normally around Hungary, the track positioning is king, as George Russell is up into P5 already. He's already got past Carlos Sainz, and he's now side by side with Sergio Perez, and he's getting up into P4. Let's take a look how he got past Sainz. Just jumped him on the start of the grid. Carlos Sainz had a very poor getaway there, and George Russell gets away well and is also past Max Verstappen around turn 1. And now George Russell is right onto the back of Lewis Hamilton. Let's have a look. Tyres. So the front three are all on mediums. It looks like Russell and Verstappen are on the same tyre strategy. But although Max Verstappen is on used tyres, which is interesting. And Carlos Sainz is on the same strategy as his teammate. That is interesting as well. So Lewis Hamilton, if he can pull off now into the distance with the leading three, that'll be interesting. We're going to hold on to the tyres a little bit, but George Russell, he's on full attack mode because he's on this 2-stop strategy, and we've got to make it work.
It's a race position gained for Mercedes. Here's the replay. Now watch this. Lewis Hamilton involved in this one.
Charles Leclerc seems to have a little bit of a problem. He is slowed right down, and Lewis Hamilton is now up into P2 and is able to chase behind Sergio Perez. If we can get George Russell away from Charles Leclerc as well, then we could be on for a decent haul of points here with the Mercedes. We're still attacking with the soft tyre. We're doing quite well in terms of our tyre degradation. We're just going to keep pushing here with George Russell. If he can get past Charles Leclerc, then we could be on for another double podium, potentially another 1-2.
Mercedes moved up a place. We can take a look now. Now, just watch the Mercedes here.
Lewis Hamilton under DRS leads the Hungarian Grand Prix down the inside at turn 1, gets past Sergio Perez, and now we are in the lead of this race. George Russell is still behind Charles Leclerc in P4, but as we just see there, Sergio Perez has got past Lewis Hamilton under DRS. Right, I think George Russell's going to have to go for it now. He's looking down the inside around turn 3, or is that turn 2, turn 3? Yes, it is. It's a brilliant move by George Russell, and now he's looking to overtake his teammate Lewis Hamilton as well. George Russell had to make that move work, and he's done it fantastically well there. If we can get him past Lewis Hamilton, quite easy. Let's take a look at the replay again, because it was a great move. I think Charles Leclerc was kept very surprised by that move. It was very aggressive there by George Russell, and he's up into P3. George Russell then going for it around the outside of Lewis Hamilton on the start-finish straight, and George Russell's past his teammate up into P2. Lewis Hamilton is starting to feel the tyre wear, it looks like, a little bit here, although they are going a little bit better. So we're going to up it to aggressive because we don't want to lose these leaders, and we don't want Lewis Hamilton to be swallowed up by a DRS train. So if he can stay within the DRS of both George Russell and Sergio Perez, then that is a good thing for Lewis Hamilton. But George Russell is on the tear, and he's up in P2 now, having started in P6, and he's one position away from overtaking for the lead. Here we go then, George Russell with the DRS. He's got it wide open. He is speeding way past Sergio Perez with the fastest lap of the race as well. George Russell leads here in Hungary. A brilliant drive so far from George Russell. Tire wise, we're doing perfectly fine. We could probably stay on these soft tires for another lap or two. Let's take a look once again as George Russell takes the lead of this race. An easy move with the DRS into turn 1. He gets away from the Red Bull, and now if we can create a little bit of a gap, then we should be okay. This two-stop strategy might work out well here for George Russell. Remember, he's looking for his first race win, as Lewis Hamilton is now gaining behind Sergio Perez. Lewis Hamilton overtakes Sergio Perez on DRS then, and we are Mercedes 1-2. Once again, the Mercedes has come alive on race day. George Russell on the soft tyres is scampering away. Let's take a look at the replay of Lewis Hamilton here. DRS open down the start-finish straight, and he breezes past Sergio Perez into turn 1. Right, here we go then, lap 31, and it is a Mercedes 1-2 yet again. But considering Lewis Hamilton is yet to stop, and George Russell came in a lot earlier, the strategies now are starting to look a little bit interesting. Max Verstappen's in P3. He's got ahead of Sergio Perez. But Sergio Perez is on a 1-stop. Max Verstappen, I don't think is. I think Max Verstappen will be 2-stopping. Charles Leclerc has just come out of the pits. He's behind Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez now. The tyres are overheating. So we're going to go down to standard with George Russell as Lewis Hamilton boxes in for his one scheduled stop. He's going from mediums onto hards. That should be enough to get to the end of the race. We're halfway through. Lewis Hamilton was in the lead. Where is George Russell? He's coming around the final turn now. Lewis Hamilton found pace out of absolutely nowhere. He took the lead, got into clean air, and he managed the tyres perfectly as George Russell now comes around the final bend, goes across the start-finish straight. Where is Lewis Hamilton coming out of the pitch? You can see him there. He is going to pull out just ahead of the Aston Martin. So Lewis Hamilton has now got the race lead outright, and it's on George Russell to overtake him before his next scheduled stop. Right, so George Russell, if he wants to win this race, he has to catch and pass Lewis Hamilton and open up a big enough gap so that when he comes out, he's either ahead of him, or we need to be able to come out, as we're going to go on standard with Lewis Hamilton, because he does need to stay on these tyres until the end of the race. George Russell has to either get past him and open up a big enough gap, or get past him and then just fly on the medium tyres.
Just watch the Mercedes here.
George Russell has been flying a little bit too fast. He's pushing maybe a little bit too hard. He's locked up and he was in the gravel. I think the tyres were fine. They weren't overheating at the time in which he locked up. Let's take a look at the replay again.
Look at this. Here's George Russell.
He has locked up, attacking a bit too much. And he's still in P2. But the problem now is the gap behind to Sergio Perez is now much, much smaller. Lewis Hamilton seems to be comfortably out in front here. Charles Leclerc is not really making any damage or imprint. Carlos Sainz doesn't seem to have the pace. Lewis Hamilton at the minute is running away with things on lap 33. Sergio Perez has done very similar then to George Russell, pushing a little bit too hard, and he's run wide while chasing him. As things stand at the minute, Lewis Hamilton is currently in first place. George Russell is 5 seconds behind as he sets the new fastest lap of the race. His pit stop window opened in 9 laps time, whereas Lewis Hamilton, he's going to the end. If George Russell is to win this race, he's going to have to start attacking now and has to keep it on track. Who says Hungary's a boring racetrack, eh? As George Russell has closed the gap on Lewis Hamilton to 1.7 seconds, George Russell's pit stop window is very soon. So we've got maybe 3 laps here on these tyres, full attacking Lewis Hamilton to try and get past him and open up maybe at least just a 5-second gap or something like that. If George Russell is able to do that, then he might have a chance then to use the pace of the medium tyres on the second stint to close enough the gap. I think Lewis Hamilton, regardless of when George Russell comes out of the pits as we go on to standard. Oh, sorry. The tyres are overheating with Lewis, not with George Russell. So that's a bit interesting because he's just been on standard the whole time. Let's take a look at the wheels there. They seem to be okay. I don't really understand why his are...
to use the tyres.
I don't understand why his are overheating, but it means that George Russell is able to continually close the gap. And behind them, Sergio Perez is currently on P3. Charles Leclerc is in P4, being chased by championship leader Max Verstappen, who is having another poor round by his standards. Carlos Sainz behind them in P6. A very quiet round for him, but it seems as though the race lead and the race win is going to come down to a fight between George Russell and Lewis Hamilton. As we go back onto attack with George Russell, his time is now with Lewis Hamilton's tyre issues and before his pit stop. George Russell is now in the DRS of Lewis Hamilton on lap 47. There are 33 laps on this race as the optimal pit stop is now. I'm going to give George Russell this lap and one more lap to try and get the race lead because he needs to get a gap. If he's going to come out, he won't come out in the lead as Max Verstappen pits for his second stop. What tyres is he going on to? That's going to be an interesting one to look for. I think he'll go on to the mediums. It seems like mediums so far. Max Verstappen is in. So he's done a 2-stop as George Russell is now attacking Lewis Hamilton. He's not able to make it around the outside, but it's a good attempt there. As his engineer says, we're giving George Russell the end of this lap and one more lap to get by Lewis Hamilton, and then he needs to come in for fresh medium tyres, and he's just going to have to go all the way until the end of this race on full attack mode. Here we go, George Russell looking to overtake Lewis Hamilton. Been blocked by the Williams, not the Aston Martin. I was going to say by the Alfa Romeo because the Alfa Romeo was coming out of the pit stop, but George Russell was going for a move there on Lewis Hamilton and he wasn't able to make it stick. We've put on overtake for the ERS to try and give him some help around this circuit. It's very difficult to overtake around the Hungary circuit. The Hungaroring is notoriously difficult. That's why track position is always so key here. George Russell has got one more lap as Lewis Hamilton looks to defend, cuts across there. It's brilliant driving from both of these guys. I'm surprised considering these guys have gone wheel to wheel so many times as the tyres are overheating. We're going to drop it down to aggressive. I'm surprised that there's not been more contact between the two of them. Right, overtake mode is on with George Russell and he's going to have the DRS. If he gets a good exit here, this should be him going into the race lead. Lewis Hamilton tries to defend as he sets the fastest lap of the race. George Russell pulls alongside him. DRS is open. He breezes past Lewis Hamilton there. That's a fantastic move there by George Russell, and he is going to have the DRS again. Right, George Russell, do we give you an extra lap on these hard tyres? Potentially. We seem to have the pace in the car. If you want to stay out, you can stay out. We're not going to bring you in just yet. We might give you another lap or two. For Lewis Hamilton, that's fine. He knows that George Russell has to come in. He is all about tyre conservation now. Right, we've given George Russell an extra lap and he has used it to great effect, setting the fastest lap of the race. So we are going to box him in now for brand new medium tyres. And this is it. George Russell, if you're going to get the race win, everything needs to be on this in-lap. He's currently 1.4 seconds clear of Lewis Hamilton and then a further 9 seconds clear of Sergio Perez. So George Russell is not going to come out in front of Lewis Hamilton. We know that much for a fact. It's just about how much of a gap George Russell is going to have to close up with the medium tyres in the final 19 or final 18 laps of this race. Lewis Hamilton's cruising. He's just worried about his tyre wear now, but it should be fine on standard until the end of the race. It is all about what George Russell does, to be honest. And here he comes, pitting in for his second stop. If we can get George Russell out ahead of Sergio Perez, that'll be fantastic. I don't think we will be able to. He might have to overtake Leclerc, Perez and Hamilton if he wants this race win, but he will be on the better tyres. As we take a look, Carlos Sainz has been just cruising around here. Is he doing a one stop or is he coming into the pits? He pitted in at a similar time to some of the others. He might get brought into this now if he's one stopping, as George Russell on a 2.8 is coming out of the pits. Sergio Perez has got past. Charles Leclerc has got past. There is Charles Leclerc just in the distance. George Russell is out ahead of Carlos Sainz. And now George Russell is going to go back onto neutral because we don't want to waste the ERS too much. And he's going to have to use these new tyres to great effect as he pushes on and hopefully challenges for the race lead. He has got to close a gap of 17 seconds in 18 laps time. Can he do it? A second a lap? I'm not so sure, but it would be great to see. Right, the first hurdle has been passed as George Russell overtakes Charles Leclerc for P3. So George Russell is up onto the podium now, 16 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton. He's not really made too much of an imprint, but he's up into P3. He now has to close the gap on Sergio Perez. It is a gap of 6 seconds. Right, George Russell on lap 62 is now close to Sergio Perez. He is almost within the DRS. Not just yet, though. He is attacking like crazy on these medium tyres, though. If we can get into the DRS, this should be an easy move for P2. And then he's only 8 seconds off the lead with Lewis Hamilton. Unless Lewis Hamilton's tyres fall off a cliff, I think he might have George Russell covered here. But George Russell is currently flying. We are harvesting the DRS because we are trying to save a lot of the battery for the closing laps of this race. But Lewis Hamilton has done a great job on his side, just managing his battery. So he's got more than enough, if it comes down to it, to defend. Right, here goes George Russell then. Overtake on the ERS has been hit. DRS is open and he looks around the outside of Sergio Perez. He's up into P2. There are 5 laps left of this race. So can George Russell do the impossible? Lewis Hamilton has been complaining of the tyres overheating. Let's take a look at the replay as George Russell takes second place again. It's an easy move with the DRS around the outside at turn 1. Gets it done before the braking point. And George Russell is on the second step of the podium once again. Do you know something? Lewis Hamilton has been in a world of his own this race. The one-stop strategy has worked wonders for him. He crosses the line and he's now on the last lap of the race here. He's 2.7 seconds ahead of teammate George Russell, who has done absolutely everything he can to try and get this race win. But it was just a little bit too much, too late on those medium tyres. Sergio Perez currently comfortably taking third step on the podium. But Lewis Hamilton, once again, showing his class around the Hungaroring. It was really never in doubt. Once he took the race lead and he ran away with these tyres on, on the last stint with the medium tyres on, once he ran away from the field, there was no looking back. And although George Russell is still closing the gap, he's not giving up. 2.2 seconds. If there are a couple of laps left, these medium tyres would have caught Lewis Hamilton and would really give him a problem. The tyres are overheating, but it's on the last lap of the race. We kind of just have to give it everything. And I guess George Russell is hoping that his teammate makes a mistake. But it doesn't look like Lewis Hamilton is going to do that. We need to sort our single lap pace out because qualifying for this Mercedes car is very difficult. And Lewis Hamilton and George Russell are having to do a saving job. As now coming towards the checkered flag for another race win and back-to-back race wins for the first time this season. Lewis Hamilton wins in Hungary. And George Russell comes across to make it another Mercedes 1-2. That's back-to-back Mercedes 1-2s here, following the result in France.
It's a real testament to their skill and the team's engineering.
Mercedes with another 1-2 then, following on from the result at Silverstone where we got a 1-2 at our home Grand Prix. It's brilliant driving from the both of them. George Russell so unlucky not to be able to close in for the race win. 1.9 seconds behind. A lot of that was held up behind the Alfa Romeo. but it's another podium for George Russell. His consistency has been out of this world. Sergio Perez comes home in P3, Charles Leclerc in P4, Carlos Sainz in P5, and Max Verstappen, championship leader. He's not going to be leading the championship after this round, coming home in 6th. Fernando Alonso in 7th, Esteban Ocon in 8th. Some good points there for the Alpine. Valtteri Bottas in 9th and Zhou Guanyu in 10th. But what a race from our leader, the greatest of all time in my opinion, Lewis Hamilton. What a brilliant controlled race, and it never really looked in doubt.
This is a result truly worthy of a champion for Lewis Hamilton. A spot on the podium is exactly what the team deserved, and they got it. The highly decorated record breaker from Stevenage once again taking to the podium. But remember, it's not just about today's trophies, it's the points that can make all the difference. Mercedes once again showing why they're one of the biggest names in F1.
It's really wonderful to see all the hard work they've been putting in paying off like this.
At the end of the weekend, it's second place in the constructor standings for them.
Next time, the teams will be adding another year to the legend of Spa-Francorchamps. Anything can happen at the Belgian Grand Prix.
There was me thinking that episode 13 could be unlucky for some, but it wasn't. Mercedes come home with another 1-2 finish, the third 1-2 of the season, following Silverstone and following France. This car is starting to come alive at the right time of the season. We've only got a couple more upgrades that we can bring to this season before we start putting all of our resources into next year, and a lot of research needs to be done. George Russell finishes with the fastest lap of the race, finishes in P2. Another brilliant drive from him, but we need him to start qualifying above P6. Sergio Perez finishes in 3rd, Charles Leclerc in 4th, Carlos Sainz in 5th, and championship leader Max Verstappen down in 6th. So what that means for the driver standings is that for the first time this season, and for the first time since really going into the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix at the end of 2021, Lewis Hamilton is at the top of the drivers' standings. He's 3 points ahead of Charles Leclerc, who is also then a further 2 points ahead of Max Verstappen. The top three are separated by just 6 points, and then Carlos Sainz is lurking behind, 15 points behind Lewis Hamilton. George Russell there closing the gap a little bit on Carlos Sainz in P5, and Sergio Perez is in P6. If we could get George Russell into a driver's title fight, that would be fantastic, but he might be let down just by the lack of wins that he's got. But 5 podiums and 4 fastest laps, good stuff for him. When we compare Lewis Hamilton's got 5 wins this season, which is the most on the grid. He's got 5. Charles Leclerc has 3. Max Verstappen has 3, and Carlos Sainz has 2. And it's Charles Leclerc with the most podiums, and it's actually George Russell who has the most fastest laps. So that's fantastic, really, to see. Down at the bottom, Nicholas Latifi and Lance Stroll, the only 2 drivers, and Alexander Albon, the only drivers to yet score a point this season. In the Constructors' Championship, Mercedes have jumped Red Bull. We're up into P2 in the Constructors' standings. It's been a brilliant weekend of points, maximum haul for the Mercedes drivers, as we're now in P2, currently behind the Ferrari boys. Currently, what's that, 44 points? 44 points, I believe, behind the Ferrari drivers. It's going to take a little bit of getting used to chasing Ferrari. They're not doing really what they usually do and bottling things. As we look at the performances for the Ferrari, 7 pole positions converted into 5 wins, 11 podiums, and 5 fastest laps. We've got no pole positions yet. We need to change that at some stage this season. 5 wins for the Mercedes. We've been very consistent. That's more wins than the Red Bull, considering the Red Bull have probably got the best car. They've got the most podiums, or equal the most podiums. But yeah, we need to get a little bit better on our single lap pace so that we can go into qualifying with a lot more momentum heading into the race. There's our development there for Lewis Hamilton and for George Russell. No development points coming. Nick De Vries as well. He will be getting into a practice session or two in the near future. It's the summer break coming soon, so we will be looking to implement a few practice sessions with Nick De Vries. Driver bonuses all paid out. Lewis Hamilton for the race win, George Russell for the podium, but we've brought in a lot of money sponsorship wise. We did tick off absolutely everything that we needed to, and that's going to be the end of episode 13 around the Hungaroring. I hope you have enjoyed it. I do appreciate all of the support so far. If you are new to the channel, hit subscribe for regular F1 Manager content. Hit like on the video if you are enjoying this episode and enjoying this series, and we'll be back for the next episode soon. But in the meantime, take care, stay safe, and I'll see you for the next one, where we'll start with the mid-season board review.